for people who are interested in opening a cafe, what would you recommend? Should they rent or should they purchase the property?
Difficult question. Again, I'm not the authority on this, but here's my two bit, right? Renting will most likely make sense because of the sheer disparity between the prices of buying versus renting, right? If you can afford it, hell, might just look at it, right? Because you'll have to again run a P&L projection on how much money you'll potentially make off it. But again, for most people, I think simply the disparity between renting and buying is so much that renting will make sense at the very beginning.
Especially in India where the real estate is.
Yeah, because
Right.
again, commercial real estate is prohibitively expensive,
Yeah.
right? And if you look at affordable commercial real estate, you would be looking at locations which are very up and coming, right? And those are a little bit of a they are a bit of a wild, risky locations, right? Because if you can look at affordable now, for example, if you were to buy a place in Connaught Place or Khan Market, you would be shocked how expensive that real estate is, right? It's from what I know, and the report I read last, Khan Market is probably the second or third most expensive real estate
Yeah.
in Asia right now.
Yeah.
Correct. So when you're looking at rates like that, obviously the equation should favor renting more. Not like the rentals are any cheaper.
Yeah.
But therefore, and if you were to look at buying options, you'd be looking on the outskirts of the town, right? You'd be looking maybe on the peripheries of Gurgaon or Noida. But those locations don't have the, in my opinion at least, I'm not a real estate expert, but they might not have the right kind of residential density yet to be able to support newer brands, right? So riskier locations, again, you must check with a real estate consultant and run your math. But for most people, I believe at this point, renting might just make more sense.
Okay. So your first store was in 32nd Avenue,
That is
right?
correct. Yes, please.
वहाँ से दूसरे स्टोर खोलने में कितना टाइम लगा और सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम क्या आता है जब आप एक से दूसरा स्टोर खोलते हो?
Well, I think challenges जो एक स्टोर खोलने में है वो multiply by 2 तो होता ही होता है. So I think we took us about an year. So we expanded in phases, right? The first store we did was a very small little sandwich pop-up in 32nd. It was barely 300 square feet, right? Out of which 150 was the kitchen. So the dining area could barely hold about 7-8 people.
Okay.
But we were lucky, right? And luck has played a large role in our journey so far, because the promoters at 32nd gave us that tiny little space to start with. That space started getting filled up really, really soon. So they did allow us to, then they allowed us to put up a lot of chairs outside and have a little bit of a patio seating going, right? So that helped to sort of expand operations further. Now at that time, again, I'll have to take us back to the challenges we were discussing earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
So a really big challenge that we faced when we started out, again, this was 2020, right? And 20 is most synonymous with COVID.
Yes.
When we signed our real estate lease, we were given about 2 months to put the store together. While we were on to about 45 odd days is when the first wave really hit. And the store wasn't finished. We had another 15-20 days of fit out left. And we were stalled. We didn't know what to look at. And the future was so uncertain. We didn't know how to go about it. And then I ended up writing an email to the promoters. Now, a lot of people did get into very difficult situations. But again, God was kind. They offered us a way out. They offered us a certain arrangement where both parties' interests were taken care of. And we got into an arrangement that helped us out of that situation, right? But again, COVID really hit at this point. Now, while the lease agreement was fairly okay and we were able to wiggle our way out of that pickle, the other problem was, will customers come or not? Because we didn't know what the future will look like. Will everybody move to deliveries? And we hadn't even done trials yet, right? So a really big challenge. So we did end up opening store for the first 2 odd months. This is when after the first wave, the things started opening up. For first 2 months, we were looking at essentially a deserted mall, right? Barely anybody showed up. But then a small trickle started. Then more and more people started coming in. And second wave was still a distant memory. This was another year for the second wave. But people started coming in. We started deliveries. Things started picking up. So things happened in a step-by-step manner. So again, COVID first wave was the first part. We were able to find a way around it. We started the small shop, started with some outdoor seating. Things were happening. This, and just when we were about to find our feet, second wave hit, right? And second wave hit, but again, we were able to do some deliveries. We started a couple of product lines which were delivery friendly. So for example, we started an edible cookie dough. We promoted that through our Instagram and other social media channels. people started ordering that home. So that was able to at least meet the salaries, and we were able to, the landlords again were very kind to waive off our rental for that period. So we were in a okay situation. We were coasting for the second wave also. But how that did help us, unfortunately not so much for others, but how did that help us was a much larger real estate right next to our unit was vacated, and it was made available to us after the second wave. Now we sort of jumped on that opportunity because we were already between the two waves, we were already getting a full house every other weekend. So we spoke to the promoters and they offered us a place adjacent to us. And that's when we expanded into the larger space, which we ended up calling the library. Again, is Melthouse only, library again, because I was really fascinated with books, and I wanted to do a library bar, and this was the first time we were going to alcohol. So we expanded into that unit. Now we had a much larger Melthouse in place. So again, 2021, late 21 is when library was fully functional, up and running. And then in 23-24 we started looking for other avenues, right? And this is around 23 end is when we finally found the right real estate. It took us about a year and a half to be able to find the right real estate, but this is when we expanded into our GK outlet. And again, that was when the hunt was over. If I were to tell you the challenges we ran into, so many, right? Because within the first outlet, while real estate problem was solved, the next problem was, how do you build a team? How do you find the right talent? Again, that's a problem that took us a while to sort of wrap our heads around. The other big challenge was setting up processes. And it's a challenge I still struggle with to this day, because challenges about processes are ongoing, right? There is just no limit to how much optimization you can do for your processes, right? For example, inventory. How do you make sure your inventory is streamlined and you're ordering from the right vendors, your relationship with your vendors is dialed in? How do you find new products? How do you find them at the right price point? And how do you match your consumption with your inventory? A lot of restaurateurs end up making that mistake where they're not able to track their inventory well. And it's a big source of leakage for the revenue, right? You have to dial in your inventory processes. It took me about 2 years to be able to find even a bare bone system that works, but I'm still optimizing it to this day. Similarly, our HR processes, our financial processes, all of this has to work together for a restaurant to work, which is why I say it's a terribly difficult industry to get into, because it's a business like any other business. But again, there has to be a lot of storytelling, there has to be a lot of marketing. And when it's a customer facing business with something as ubiquitous as food, right? Everybody has an opinion on food, right? Any customer who comes in will have an opinion on food. And there are just so many opinions to deal with. How do you tackle that is another challenge. So just so many challenges. They were replicated when we were doing GK, but at least across 2 years, we were able to set in some rudimentary streamlined processes, which we were able to scale up, and that did help. But again, it's an ongoing journey. I think it never stops. You have to keep optimizing it, but hopefully one day we should be in a good place.
अगर आपको ये वीडियो इन्फॉर्मेटिव लगी और ऐसी और वीडियोस देखना चाहते हैं, सो मेक श्योर टू फॉलो ट्रूफुल नेशन ऑन YouTube.